Okay. So welcome everyone to our panel with Women in Tech and Women at Google. I'm very excited to have everyone here today. I will share a little bit of information about one of our programs before we start, just because the reason why we have in this panel, we really want people to understand the benefits of learning technology as early as possible. So I'll tell you a little bit about the program. One of our programs that we have at Revolution is called the Stamina program, and is a 2 weeks virtual program. And it really is designed to equip 13 to 17 years old girls and gender nonconforming youth in Ontario with the confidence, skills, and professional portfolios and networks to pursue fulfilling careers in the STEM industries. One of our aims, actually, one of our major aims is to break the gender barriers and inspire teens to pursue education in STEM. And this is the reason why we have a panel like today. And I am going to start today's session by asking our speakers to introduce yourselves. So let's start in order of alphabetical order. So Christina, if you don't mind introducing yourself, that would be great.
Sure. Hello, everyone. It's so great to be here with you. My name is Christina. I currently manage news partnerships here at Google. Previously to Google, I was a strategic partner manager also for YouTube, where I help creators in the category health and learning to in their businesses and like in their strategy as well, and some organizations in the health sector as well. My background is in journalism, which I know some of you may be asking, okay, how can this really help here? I spoke to Don about it, and we just thought this could be relevant as, like could show some of the skill set for me to arrive at Google and how that can eventually kind of connect with your career path. And so, yeah, my background is in journalism, and I actually had a great opportunity to work before joining Google in an organization called Underknown. Underknown is a digital first company that produced video web series about science and technology. So I worked with a group of journalists that created engaging, like boiled down complex subjects into an easy, engaging to understand videos, and they were educational videos about science and humanities. So like I got very passionate about the mission of Underknown, which was to educate new generations on science and humanities. And I think like that experience kind of like encouraged me today to join here and share a little bit of my mix between journalism and creator, and of course like partnerships, and how did I land of that together. So really excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Christina. I believe Mackenzie will be next.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Mackenzie. It's lovely to be here. So I work as a senior software engineer on the cloud healthcare team at Google. I've been in that role for 4 years now, or software engineer, working up to senior software engineer. I was promoted last year. But I've been on the cloud healthcare team, and what we do is we work with hospitals and insurance companies to basically bring their healthcare data into Google Cloud. And one of the products that I work on is to kind of standardize healthcare data across different institutions. So if I visit like one hospital and then I visit a second hospital, how can that second hospital have access to all of my past health data and know everything about me that they need to know to properly treat me? My education, I took robotics engineering at the University of Toronto. And this has been my first job since university, but I did several internships, one of which was also at Google on an ads team as a software engineer.
Thank you so much, Mackenzie. I am not sure if Harjit is here. I'm not able to see the guests. So if Harjit, are you here? Okay, if she's coming back later, then we can add her. Let's go to the next. Nina, If you
Hello.
don't mind sharing about you next.
Is my microphone working? I don't see my thing.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So
Yes.
I'm Nina. I am a senior software engineer at Google as well. I work on the Google Chrome team, on the security team. So my work revolves around authentication and identity. So imagine making it really easy for you to sign in, to see your account details, and so on, or to sign into your bank, and making it really hard for the bad guys to sign in with your details on the bank. And my background is on software, like I did software engineering in university, and I had a couple different jobs, mostly as a web developer before I joined Google, and a bunch of internships as well. And yeah, I've been doing this job for the last 5 years and a half or so. And right now, if I'm not working, normally I have some hobby going on. I'm learning how to fly right now, like trying to get my pilot's license. So yeah,
That's
that's
amazing. And you've also have been volunteering with Revolution in the past, so you are very familiar with us. So thank you so much, Nina. Sophia, do you mind
Hi,
introducing
everyone.
yourself?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Sophia Ramatula. I'm a pursuit lead here at Google Cloud, specifically in the consulting team. So I do all of our business development for any consulting engagements that Google does with our customers. I've actually just recently joined Google this year in January. So I'm what we call at Googler a Noogler. So can kind of share kind of the new joining Google experience. Before that, I have a broad consulting background. So I come from the consulting field, spending a lot of time at Accenture and also at a smaller digital agency. So looking forward to answering any questions and just chatting about kind of the non-technical side of the Google experience as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. So I will be asking a couple of questions, and then we will have room for Q&A for the audience from the audience today. So I am going to start with the early career because I'm sure everybody would like to know, especially our audience is younger, the youth. They would like to understand, how do you get to start, in technology? So let's go with how did you decide to enter your career? What was your spark? And let's go in the same order. So Christina, if you don't mind starting.
Sure. So how did I decide to start into this career? I honestly, since I was 7, my mom said that I wrote like in a life project for the school that I wanted to be a journalist or be involved with news. And that was just like in my soul. Like I always like to, like, like really everything related to information and how we deliver information and how we help people to make better decisions. And that's actually the mission of the role that I am here, is how we the mission of Google is really organize the world information, and like through news partners, we actually help them to like make better decisions by having the right information in place. So I think like even if I'm not being a journalist right now, I think like I'm connected with the mission, which was always, like being able to deliver information in the right way, high quality information properly so people have access to things. And it was just in my soul that I wanted to that. In all honesty, I never dreamed to work at Google specifically. It just came after. I just really wanted to be a journalist and work with news. That was the only thing I knew at the moment. I didn't know where and how. Just it was a path. That's how it happened.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I know we had the conversation before you sign up to speak at this event, and thinking, am I the right person to do this? And I believe you really are, because when we think about tech companies, we think just coding, but there's so many aspects about a company, right? So one great example is what one might do that they're not necessarily coming with a technical background. So thanks for sharing that. Mackenzie, how about you? How did you decide to enter your career?
Yeah, my career was a bit of a windy road. So I went to university. I really wanted to take aerospace engineering, wanted to be an astronaut. I was pretty certain on that. The reason why I had selected engineering in the first place was because my grandpa was an engineer. And I was really inspired by him. He was just the most amazing person that I knew, and he could learn anything. You asked him to learn or teach you anything, and he could. And yeah, I think I when I was starting university, I really didn't like coding, software engineering. It wasn't for me. I failed my first midterm, which was a really big deal for me. And it was interesting because I was entering university with other people who had been coding for like high school or even further back than that. But I had never had the opportunity to like learn what was behind a computer before my first year of university. So obviously, you know, in comparison, I wasn't going to be excelling, and it made me really took a hit on my confidence. And I was like, I absolutely will not be doing software engineering, even though that's kind of like a hot career right now. But then after second year, I ended up doing a internship. I took a full year off school because school wasn't easy for me. And I needed a break. And so I took a 16-month internship, and I actually worked at Intel. And I started in a project management role, but then I morphed into software engineering. And it was kind of through that opportunity that I gained a lot of confidence. And I realized that like software engineering wasn't just about the code, which is not necessarily my strength. And yeah, I think that's after that, I was like, okay, I can take robotics engineering, which is a mix between mechanical, electrical, and software engineering. And I can do kind of any career with that I wanted. And I ended up getting an internship at Google, which is how I ended up here.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing that. You know, fun fact, I've been doing Revolution for 11 years and I don't know how to code still. So you don't have to know how to code to run, you know, to be in technology. So thanks so much for sharing that. Nina.
Yeah, I had a really straightforward path actually in comparison to that. I always liked computers, and my uncle was doing software engineering when I was a kid. I must have been about like 8 years old or so. And I just sat, you know, next to him, like watching him code. I'm like, I could understand that, you know, he was making the computer do what he wanted. So I'm like, teach me, teach me. He didn't have the patience for that. So he just was like, you know, I have this book. It's called How to Program in C and C++. It's like very well known book in terms of like schooling if you get into software engineering. I was like, sure, I don't have anything else to do. I was an 8-year-old. What did I have, like homework? Maybe that was it. No responsibilities. And so I just started programming. And so for me, it was really natural to get into software engineering. Uh, and and uh, and I like applied for an internship at Google while I was on my first year. So I remember that they asked me like, "Oh, you know, could you give us a transcript with like all your like subjects, you know, like you know what your grades are for them?" And it was empty. Uh, so, but somehow, some way, I got the job. And yeah, so I guess the only like interesting thing is that my parent, well, so school where I grew up is free. Like I don't have to pay for my university, but I still had to like eat and like live somewhere. And my parents couldn't really support me, so I worked through the entirety of my university career. It took me 6 years to graduate, and I worked those 6 years part time. When I wasn't doing an internship at Google, I was doing something else within software engineering, and yeah, like I graduated and I was like, hey, you know, could I get the job at Google? And they were like, yep, you know, come on in. I interviewed and I got the job.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing that, Nina. Thank you. Sophia, how about you?
Yeah, I feel like I had a pretty straightforward path as well, although different from everyone else's. It's really cool to hear everyone's stories. I was interested in business in high school. I was never really great at the sciences. I was good at accounting and math and business courses. And my mom was an accountant and was kind of like, accounting will open all the doors for you. And in high school, what else did I really know? So I kind of started going that path. I did my undergrad in commerce, so a general business undergrad at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. Once I got into my undergrad, I discovered case competitions and essentially doing like mini consulting projects at university. And so I ended up doing a ton of those. I thought they were really fun to just kind of work with a client, solve a problem. I loved presenting and talking to people and telling a story. And I discovered that that was actually a job that existed, which was consulting. And so I said, forget accounting, I'm going to go try this consulting thing, and kind of switched my major when I was in university, and was lucky enough to recruit out of university for a consulting job at Accenture. And it was a really great kind of start to my career. Consulting was just, it allows you to work with a lot of different customers throughout your career. And so I kind of felt like in my first couple of years at Accenture, I had already had like 10 different jobs, just basically doing 10 different consulting engagements. And so it was a really great way to learn quickly. And through that, obviously got connected into Google, specifically on the consulting team, since I had that background and skill set. And that's how I ended up here this year.
Thank you so much, Sophia. A follow-up question that I have, which I think everyone would like to know, is what did you wish you knew when you were beginning your career? Or maybe I can rephrase this, like if you knew then what you knew now, would you do anything differently? Or any way you want to answer this question is fine. So let's go the same way. So Christina, if you want to answer this.
Yeah, that's such a great question. I wish I had something like this for someone telling me. But I will say a couple of things. The first one is we think that careers go like this.
Yeah.
Just that, like they just go always up or they go straight, let's say. And I think like all these small things that happen during the career that help you to build who you are and what you bring to the table to a role. um in my case, for example, like I started in like newsroom hosting news on TV, like writing articles, and like I thought that's what I will be my whole life. And then like suddenly I moved to a new country where it was not my first language, so I couldn't write and speak in the way that I was doing it in Spanish. I'm originally from Colombia. And I was like, okay, my career as a journalist just die here. I cannot do anything else. Like, if you don't know the politics and the economics of a country, how can you be a journalist? And, I landed in a different job that allowed me to like use those skills that I learned into a different way. So I went to organization to produce videos. And then I started learning about sales and connecting with other people. And I think like all these different paths of my life, personally and professionally, helped me to build a set of skills that then when I joined Google, actually they found it valuable. Like I had the ability to make things international. So like taking brands from one market to multiple markets. I had the ability to connect with other journalists. I have ability to see how businesses work from a journalist and a business perspective. So I would say just don't get too anxious about like your career going in a straight way. Sometimes it will be up and downs, and that's okay. That's just building who you are and where you will go. And I would say the second thing will be like, I wish that people told me that it's not just about everything you learn in the university.
Yes.
It's about like getting actually in the ground and experiencing things. Like I would say most of the things that I found valuable in my career were things that I learned empiric, that I learned by doing it and just like jumping and taking the risk to doing it. And I say like build a very strong network of people. That people are the people that lift you, help you, guide you, motivates you when you are sad or down or you don't know where to go. Get yourself surrounded by strong people that can guide you in your path to where you want to go. So those are like my pieces that I wish someone told me before.
Thanks so much for sharing that. And shameless plug right here about the Stamina program is this is exactly what it does. It introduces you to a couple of things in terms of technology, but all the other aspects like pitching and so many other things. But the most important and most valuable thing that we've heard from everybody is introduce you to a network of people in the industry that will become your mentors, people that can help you, guide you along the way, to build a project. Even your peers, it's like, it's so valuable because you can learn stuff on your own online, but when you have a network of people to support you, you can get there so much faster. So yeah, and then one thing I was going to mention, this is something I learned myself, is they say, forget what you learn in school. Now the actual learning starts on your first day of your job, right? So yeah. Okay, Mackenzie.
I think what I wish I knew at the beginning of my career was that it's okay to be different. I think one thing that I did when I was in university was apply to jobs or like extracurriculars just because that's what everybody else was doing. And that's actually how I ended up applying to Google in the first place, which, now I don't regret actually. But I found myself, like, as I've now grown up a little bit more from like that university stage, like just kind of following along, I'm much more intentional with the decisions that I'm making. And I think what I wanted when I was in university, I never actually got to really achieve, because I was afraid that, I wouldn't have these specific extracurriculars on my resume that would enable me to like get hired at Google or something like that.
Right.
And yeah, I think it's just, you should embrace being different and take time to reflect on what it is that you actually want to do, instead of just doing what everybody else around you is doing.
That is very valuable information, because I feel a lot of people hear that this is the thing to do, or I'm going to follow this because it makes me money. And then you realize that you don't like it. And I can speak from experience. I've had a career for 10 years, and I did it because I was told that's what I'm supposed to be doing, because it's easy to get into it, to come to Canada and all of this. And I was poor the whole time and I was not happy. And so now, I just said, I'm going to go for what I want to do. And that's so important, just focus on you first. Thank you so much, Mackenzie. Nina.
Yeah, so I would say probably the importance of being humble and understanding that like everyone has something to bring to the table. So I mentioned like I started the program when I was like very little. So I like had this experience of I went to university, and then well while everyone was learning, how do I do a for loop, or what's a variable, I felt like, oh my god, like I'm just like so farther ahead than all these people. But this was completely the wrong attitude to have to, well, definitely academia, probably work, and also life. And so a big part of our job, was said just now, was that it's not just coding, right? There's so much more to software engineering, and a lot of that, so much more, is dealing with people. So bringing, being a little more humble, and understanding that everyone has a different perspective, everyone has a different background. I think I could have used that lesson a lot earlier in my life.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you so much. It is true. You have to be humble. You get so much further ahead. That's so true. Sophia, let's hear about your story.
Yeah, so I mean, agree with everything everyone else has said, but I'll add two additional things. So one is education doesn't stop after your university education or college or whatever education kind of you're doing when you're in school. Education is a continuous journey, and it's really important to continue learning and finding new ways to learn through your career as well. And some of that will be on the job, but some of that will be through kind of additional education programs as well as you develop in your career. I think something we know in tech is changing rapidly. And so while we learn a lot about it in our careers at Google, it's important to kind of find external trainings or trainings through Google or other places as well to keep on top of what's going on and keep learning. The other thing is the importance of building a network. My network for me has been so instrumental in helping me grow in my career, in helping me grow as a person, as a leader, as a manager. So really making sure that you maintain a strong network. I remember, I worked with people 8-9 years ago, and a year or two after working with them, I kind of lost touch. And one of the things that I've been trying to really work hard at now is whenever I've worked with someone who I've got along really well with, or who I've learned something from, or who I've taught something to, is just try to kind of maintain those relationships. You never know when someone might support you, or you might support someone else as well. So the importance of network in growing and developing your career.
Thank you, Sophia. And that's a key word there. When someone can support you, but you also support them as well, because that also shows what you can do, and you never know how far that can take you as well. So that's important. So thank you so much. Let's move on to the work day, because I'm sure everybody wants to know what would be a typical day of working, what you do at Google. So let's change it up a little bit, and let's go with let's start with Sophia now, and then we can go backwards.
Sure. I'm actually so curious to hear how everyone else's days are because I don't even know. But in terms of my day, so like I said, I work in business development for our consulting team. And so I spend a lot of my time on calls and meetings with our customers. So talking to customers about what services they might need to implement our products. So as an example, if a customer is looking to use BigQuery, what do they need to do to be able to get all their data into BigQuery, which is one of our data products. So I'll work with customers to understand their needs, their problems, their pain points, and help shape what Google can do to support them. I'll also work closely with other internal stakeholders, so our sales teams, our product teams, our functional teams, our engineers, to make sure that I'm understanding what it is Google can do and kind of where the limitations and guardrails are. So I spend a lot of my day talking to people, some of my day drafting SOWs, or what we call statements of work, which is kind of the scope for what we would do in a consulting engagement. And then also work with our teams to make sure that we're getting those contracts signed. So a lot of kind of orchestrating across a lot of different stakeholders and teams, which is really fun because you get to work with a lot of people who have skill sets in a lot of different areas. And I'm kind of working to make sure I'm speaking everyone's language and understanding where everyone's coming from and their points of view. And then making sure that we're executing on great work for our customers. So that's kind of what my day looks like.
Thank you, Sophia. Also, if we can just also add to what is it that you love most about your job as well. So if you want to add that, and then we can just go with what do you do and what do you love more about it?
Yeah, sure. I think what I love most about my job is working with a customer to help help understand their problem and define a solution that can work for them. I think when it comes down to it, we are a technology product company, but it's not just about selling the technology, it's really about solving the problems, and technology can aid in solving that problem. But if you can work with your customer on really getting to the root of what their problem is and shaping what the solution looks like with the help of technology, I think it really helps in building strong relationships. And that's kind of the exciting thing to me about this job.
Thank you, Sophia. Nina, what does your day look like? Typical day, and what do you love most about it?
Yeah, so most of my day is perhaps unsurprisingly coding. I have a relatively small, very senior team for like the average at Google, and so we're like all of us are involved in coding, from people who have been at the company for 17 years and have like published papers in cryptography, all the way to the more junior members of our team. And so there's that. There's really not that much more to talk about that, but also another like part that I find very interesting about my job that's a little less common is I work on standards. So imagine, we want you to be able to sign in on Chrome, running on Windows, using an iPhone, right? And so there are like 3 different companies at least involved in this. So we have to make sure that if we build some technology that it is interoperable and that it works no matter if you have an iPhone or an Android and so on. And so I go to this, I usually travel for these standards meetings. The last one was in Japan. That was a lot of fun. And so imagine the way I heard it described for people outside is if you've done a UN model sort of thing where, there's a big table and a bunch of people sitting and you have like a badge that says, Nina, Google, and then there's a guy sitting next to you and it says like John, Apple, and so on. It's really interesting because you're trying to all build some interoperable solution. There might be some issues in the way every company wants to push the product or the protocol forward, but they're also your competitors. So there's a very interesting dynamic where you want to give them the information that they need in order to help you, and you want to help them, kind of like a business thing, but also you want to withhold the stuff that is like your company secrets or whatever, and each company has a very different policy in what they allow their employees to say. So I find that to be a very interesting part of my work that I definitely enjoy, mostly because of the traveling. And then in terms of project, I find a lot of sense of accomplishment in that I feel like we're fighting the good fight. Whenever like a grandparent gets scammed by someone on a call center, and they have their money stolen, or a kid gets their Roblox account stolen. We're working on technologies that make this harder. And the people doing that, they're scammy, they're criminals, and we often cannot prosecute them, but maybe we can stop them. Or make it a lot more expensive to damage, to do real harm to our users.
Thank you so much for that, Nina. We really need that type of work. Thank you. Mackenzie.
Yeah, so my day has been looking a little bit differently recently. So my manager actually just went on paternity leave. So I've taken over some of the sort of management of my team. So I've been doing a lot less technical work for the past month or so. So my day looks like a lot of meetings, as well as reviews of other people's stuff. So I'm often reviewing like designs or code that other people have written. I often, or not often, I sometimes get to find little pockets of like focus time where I'm able to find somewhere where I can just make like a positive impact on our product quality for our customers. And in those moments, I'll get to code and it's really fun. But yeah, most of my day lately has been more kind of mentoring and bringing people together in order to have like discussions to solve problems. Be it like product managers or program managers, just a bunch of different kind of roles that we're always working with, or like our UX designers. Another big part of my job that I love is the kind of volunteer work that I get to do within Google. So I teach grade school kids coding around Ontario, and I love that part of my job because I get paid to do, really fun and impactful work. And I think that's, that ties really, really well into what's my favorite part of my job. And it's that Google invests in me for doing that kind of work. I think that is just an amazing thing that I get to pursue passion projects, and teaching coding is the latest one, but there have been others in the past as well. And I think, that just makes me so much happier in my job and at work. And yeah, it has an overall positive impact on the people around me because I'm just happier.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We love happy people. Thank you. Christina.
Yes. Oh my God, this is fascinating to hear everyone day to day. So I think for some context, I have been in this role that I'm in now just for a little bit of more than 3 months. So it's pretty new, but I can share a little bit of like what this role and my previous role was, but which both are, I don't know, they have the same purpose, I would say. Our roles as news partner manager is to support our partners. And in my case, I work at YouTube, I work with the health and learning vertical. So that means that I supported hospitals like across Canada to like see how we can bring more high quality information to YouTube, as an example. You won't believe that this is actually happening. Like, I didn't know that Google was doing this, that we were, partnering with authorities across the country to make sure that you had high quality content when you search for health conditions. So when you are searching for diabetes, or you're searching for stroke, or you're searching for mental health or anxiety, like what you find is actually coming from trustable sources. So like my job was to build those relationships with those authorities, and that included doctors and like hospitals, to make sure that they are present in the platform to create that. And now as a news manager, I also have similar purpose, is to make sure, in a day-to-day, I connect with these news partners, and these can be broadcasters, they can be publishers, they can be digital first partners. And my job is to make sure that we offer them, first, like we train journalists. So we train journalists in tools that they can find, like, for example, how I can search better to find like trustable information that can support my articles or support the content I'm creating. We train journalists in tools of Google that they can use to make their job, let's say, faster or easier. And then on top of that, like I'm here available to be the point of contact for them for our products. So if they have like issues with like, I don't know, analytics, or they have issues with search, or they have issues with like, I don't know, any other of our tools that we have available, third-party cookie deprecation, as an example. I'm the point of contact to connect them with any of our teams across the organization to support them. So it's a very much like an external facing role. I'm always listening. I'm out for events, constantly listening at our partners and journalists to understand what are their needs and come back and try to find solutions for them and see how Google can be supportive for them. So that's like a day-to-day thing for me. And I just find it like fascinating, in particular in my new role. News is news is such an important part of our day-to-day and how people receive information to make more informed decisions. So I want to make sure to partner with the right partners so we have the right information when you are reading articles or videos or anything. So yeah, anyways, that's me.
Thank you so much. I have one final question before we go to the Q&A. So we're going to go in the same round this time. So we're going to start with Sophia. What advice do you have for the next generation that are thinking about entering STEM careers? So what would be your advice? What would you tell? Either it could be your 12-year-old self, or it could be telling the young women that are interested in STEM.
Oh, wow. 12 years old. I'm trying to
I
put myself
chose
in
12 because typically that's the age when, you know, young, especially young female, are trying to either get into it heavily or just get out of it. So that's why I chose the age 12.
Yeah, no, I love that. So I would say at that age as well, I mean, even ballpark that age.
Yeah.
Learn as much as you can, but also learn about the things that are interesting to you. Like follow what you're finding interesting. Like a few of the other women here said, you know, your career is a journey. It's typically a really, really long one. You know, it's not a destination. So when at this age you're young, learn, like, look, think about what's interesting to you in the world as a human, as you're experiencing your own, you know, your own journey with technology, with other people, how you're interacting, what's interesting to you about it, and learn what you can in those spaces. And you'll find kind of what's calling to you in terms of how you're going to develop within your own career. I think when I was younger and, you know, based on how I grew up, some of the kind of leaning for me was, you know, I have to make money. I have to be able to support other people in my life. And what does that look like? And I sometimes fell away from kind of what I was passionate about and kind of had to try to find my way back to that in some ways as well. And not to say, you know, as you get older as well, people have financial responsibilities. And so there is importance there. But as you're kind of just figuring that out for yourself as well, lean into where you're interested in, because if you have kind of that passion as well, that passion kind of really ends up pairing well with what you're good at and helps kind of you find what you're good at as well. So I would just say lean into what you love and keep learning.
Thank you. I believe would be Nina next.
Yeah, so I would say, you know, try new stuff. You know, it's usually free or cheap. So you're like, especially in software engineering, on like around the tech STEM world. So like, oh, I want to try, you know, making a video game. You know, like there's the internet. You know, find a laptop, go to a library, and just try it. And also be true to yourself. And then if you decide, you know what, I thought I was really gonna like programming, for example, and just talk about that because it's this thing I do, but it could be something else. And you're like, actually, I don't like it that much. Well, that's fine. You know, it's like super early. You can change and choose to try something else. You can even change your path once you're in university. You know, you can try, oh, I'm gonna get a major in computer science, and you're like, oh my god, I love math, but I hate everything else, and then switch to math. Like, that's perfectly fine. Just being true to yourself, I think, is really important.
That's really sound advice. Thank you, Nina. Mackenzie.
And this might not be advice for a 12-year-old, but I think my advice would be to be bold in your self-advocation and when you're marketing yourself. I've heard from a lot of people over years that, men will go to people and say, this is what I want and this is when I want it. And us girls are more conditioned to be like, oh, I'd be okay if I would have that. And I think what I'm learning is that, especially in the professional world, the first one just gets you places faster for your own career. And I think it's something that I'm learning to come to terms with. I don't always have the confidence to approach people and ask for what I want, which is super unfortunate. But yeah, I love the idea of just being so confident in what it is that I want that I can just go and say, please help me in getting this.
Yes, that is so true. We need more confidence, that's for sure. And not just that we need the confidence, we need to apply the confidence,
Yeah,
right? Apply it.
absolutely.
Yes. So thank you. Thanks, Mackenzie. Christina.
Like plus 1,000% what Mackenzie
Yes.
say. I think that I think like I just want to say we have to be and recognize to have to recognize that tech and media, which are the two kind of mixed industries that I work on, it has been for decades very much male dominated, and I think that it's changing. So we really hope you, 12-year-old there listening at us, you don't find that when you are actually going into the market, in the industry market. And I think there are amazing women out there doing a lot of groundwork to change that in the future. And I really hope that that's not the case. But it's good to be aware and just build that confidence. I agree. I think the other thing that I will recommend to a 12 years old is like two things: just listen what you're passionate about it, but also like find reference of people that are doing things that you really like how that person got where they are. Just like be curious, never stop being curious, just to like how they like I even like I'm not 12, but I do that every day. Like I'm like how that person got there, and I go and I research like what were their path to go there, like what kind of things they like. And that doesn't mean you have to repeat exactly the path they did, but it's a guide, like to understand like what is the journey behind that person that you really admire and think that like will be great to repeat or kind of get some parts of that journey for your own journey. So like yeah, just like listen to what you hear inside and like just follow that and get good reference to like follow that specific path.
Thank you so much. So now, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate everything you said. It's all so valid and so important. And I think somebody mentioned, like, I wish I would have had this when I was growing up, because I know we are quite further ahead where we were even 10, 11 years ago when I started Revolution, but we still have a lot of work to do, that's for sure. So we should definitely continue this. With that said, let's open up the Q&A session. So if anybody has any questions, do you mind either unmute yourself or if you want to add them to the chat? And if you have a question for a specific panelist, please mention that, or generally speaking, everyone will answer. So let's see, anybody else have questions? Don't be shy. Remember, we just talked about apply your confidence. So anyone? Let's see if
Hi.
anybody... Yes.
My name is Amna. I'm in grade 11, and my goal is to become a software engineer in the future. So my question was, I've heard that the interview process to getting into Google is really extensive. So I was wondering how your experience was.
I guess I can take that as I'm a software engineer, and I also interview people. a lot for the job. So it is extensive. There is essentially for most candidates a phone screen at first, which you get a call or maybe it's via like video chat, and then you solve some problem. And then if you pass that, you get into like the on-site interviews, which I don't know if we still call them, but they're remote now because post COVID they're all remote. And so there's normally 4 interviews. One of them is a behavioral interview, which we call Googliness and Leadership, where we ask you, tell me about the time you had to solve this problem, this sort of like questions. It's not a technical interview. And then the other 3 are technical interviews where you solve some kind of coding problem and on essentially a whiteboard. It has syntax highlighting, but it will not compile the code for you or anything like that. We provide candidates with extensive resources to both like practice and see what the interviews are like. There's recordings. There's actually a lot of information if you look this up online, and it does take practice. It's really hard to just go to the interview without any practice and pass, but it's not impossible. And like we hope that the experience does not suck as well. I don't know if that makes any sense to you if you haven't started interviewing, but right.
Thank you.
The one thing I'll add to that is that oftentimes the stuff that you're going to learn in like coding class in high school or university may not be exactly applicable in the interviews. Like there's a lot of similar like data structures and algorithms, but yeah, I found, at least myself, like I wasn't in software engineering, so it took like a lot of preparation and a lot of different interviews for me to be able to kind of master the process. And friends were a huge help at that. So I practiced with a lot of different people how the interviews would go, and that was definitely useful.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question here. We have a couple more questions. So as an aspiring software engineer and seeing the job market nowadays, how can you make yourself stand out? I believe somebody said earlier, be different, right? Be different. Is there any? Yeah.
That was me who said be different. I know that the job market is not super hot right now, shall we say. But I think the way that you can differentiate yourself is showing 2 things: leadership as well as passion for technology. So, passion for technology doesn't have to be like the standard things that I at least think about, like doing a hackathon or like having a GitHub or something like that. When I was in university, I was on a solar powered car team, and that made me stand out, I think, from the rest of the field, because it was something that was a little bit different, and I wasn't on the software team there. So people had a lot of questions of like, what transferable skills do you have, going from like a mechanical car worker in your extracurriculars into now wanting to do a software engineering job. But yeah, I think then the leadership piece comes in. And if you have demonstrated ability to be in like a leadership role, that might help you stand out as well.
Yeah, and I want to challenge the statement that the job market is, well, you wrote seeing the job market nowadays, which implies it's bad. It's bad if you want to get into like one of the big tech companies, but there are still plenty of jobs. Like we need software engineers in like all sorts of industries, and honestly, like there are like plenty of good jobs out there that just happen to like not be at Google. And then by the time you graduate, I don't know how old you are, but like assuming like you start the university today, maybe like 4 years from now, if you're doing right, the career, like the ecosystem might look completely different. So I won't worry too much about it.
So can I add something quickly here? I think like in generally as a software engineer or any other role, like when you are applying for a job, make sure to align whatever you have done to the job description. It's very important. Like, I think like if as much as you can align your skill set to what they are looking for, like that at least will help you with that first filter of like if you are the right candidate for it. Like sometimes we made the mistake of just like, okay, this is the CV and let's just like send it. But like taking the time to really research what are the requirements of the job and adapting your resume to that, it really can make a difference on how that filters out. So like, I hope that's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that is. And there's also a lot of people are talking about the job market right now, but if we look in some of the people that are attending this are probably not old enough to understand the 2000 when technology was changing completely, like Y2K, and I remember that part. And it's there's a shift. I'm not gonna say that there's a lot of change happening, but there's also a shift. So it's like, what is it that you want to focus on so that it can help you for later on? But again, never let go of what you actually want to do and who you really are, you know. And I believe that Mackenzie already answered, Aisha, I think she already answered your questions when it comes to transitioning. Are there any particular programming languages or technologies you recommend focusing on? I thought that was a good question.
I can take it if you like.
Yes, please.
Programming languages. Not in particular, for me at least. I basically, like at Google, we use every single programming language under the sun in some way, shape, or form. And at least at the big companies, what you'll find is that the technology stack is for the most part, internal. Like we're not using a whole lot. I mean, some people are, like I code in GitHub sometimes and stuff like that, which is always good to know. But there's a lot of stuff that you can learn on the job and a lot of stuff that you are expected to learn on the job because so many of our technologies and tools are internal. And so I think it's more important to demonstrate that you can learn a programming language and that you can use one. So in the interview process, you'll have to select a programming language that you want to use, and just pick the one that you're best at. You don't necessarily need to pick the one that's most aligned with the job, for example. Just pick the one that you're most comfortable in, and programming languages in general are quite transferable. Like if you know how to write a for loop in Python, you can probably figure it out in C++. There are, of course, a lot of nuances, but I've taken many different courses. Like as soon as I knew I had to write Go on the job, I had never done that before. Java, like I'm taking courses as soon as I realize that I need to know that, but just having one that you're able to use and interview with is the most important.
Yes, like I mentioned earlier, I've been doing this for 11 years. I don't know how to code, but the one thing that I know is that once you learn one language, it's easier to learn the other one, and then you can figure it out. So don't get stuck up into just, I need to learn this language, and if I don't, then this is the end of the world. Just learn one, start with that one, and then you can continue with the next and on, as you go on and on. I am going to take one last question because of the time. And somebody mentioned here that I like this question. I'm new to Canada and decided to study marketing. I want to get an idea about marketing jobs and what's the requirement for marketing jobs in Google. Anyone would like to answer that?
That's a tough one because like none of us actually
marketing
have the marketing
Yes.
requirements. I will say that again, like a little bit of what I say earlier. I think like the most important thing when you're applying to a Google job as a first filter is to make sure that you are hitting every node of the requirements on it. So like I think that will be super important, like the time that you require, the experience and the background. But like I don't know if someone else in the panel has the knowledge of the marketing roles, but like I'm not necessarily my background and the job that I'm right now, it's not necessarily marketing backup. So
Yeah, I can answer that question. I don't work at Google, but we're doing a lot of programming for our participants, and we do have marketing included in our program. So, and the reason why I included marketing concepts for the students to understand that is because once you understand technology, once you understand so many other things, it's easier to work in marketing at any tech company because you understand the product or the service that the company is building. And once you understand that, you can market anything really. So that's as much as I know. I am going to share a little bit about our program coming up. So, you know, we have this program called Stemming Up. This will be the 7th year we're actually running this program. And then we have one of our speakers here that has been a mentor in the past. So thank you, Nina. And yes. And so this program, I know in the past we've had this program run for 4 weeks, but now we decided to just, you know, put it, not minimize the quality, but minimize the time of the program because we want participants to be able to get summer jobs if they need to. So there's a QR code, please scan it. You know, you do get to build a portfolio work in this program. I mean, a lot of the information that was shared by our panelists, it's something that you can actually be introduced to in this program. To participate, you have to be 13 to 17, basically grade 8 and up, or even 7. I'll know it's we added the age, but if you are younger, you can also apply. If you know that you know your stuff, we have had 11 years old enter this program in the past, and they did exceptional. And so don't let that hold you back. The one thing that we ask is if you are not sure, just apply anyways, and then we'll tell you what you can do to, you know, to maybe enter next year. But we do use the 17 SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, as challenges. So you get to work with a team of peers, a team of students, and then you get to come up with a solution that will turn into either a web app or a mobile app. So you get to do something fun. It does help you build up portfolio of work. And you are, you know, supported by mentors and coaches who are industry professionals. And you gain volunteer hours as well as $100, up to $100 Wi-Fi subsidy. And of course, you get to win prizes. We have 2 hackathons built into this program. So the way that is designed, on Monday to Fridays, you get to do a lot of learning. And then in the weekend, you have the hackathon, which be the applied learning, the hands-on. And then that will help you come up with your I would say project, let's call it project. The first hackathon, you'll get feedback on how to improve it. And the next week, you have the opportunity to make that better so that when you do the demo day, after the second hackathon, at the end of the program, then you get to win some of the prizes, which are job shadowing opportunities and mentorship and so many other cool stuff. We will have another session on July 11 where we bring some of our rewards partners to talk about, you know, what the job shadowing is and why is it important. So we hope that maybe you can attend that. And for now, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists for being here and sharing all this questions. Your information is very, very, very valuable because for some of the attendees, you know, it is the first time that they hear from someone at Google or someone in tech industry. And I'm very, very grateful for your time. And all of you that have participated here today, thank you so much. And with all of that, I say I thank you and I hope to see you at the next event. So
Thank you for having us.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you
everyone.
so much. Thank you